Gördük əziz və hörmətli tamaşaçılar. Hər vaxtınız xeyirli və gününüz xoş olsun. Zaman ən doğru yazardır. Vaxt ən gözəl sonu yazar. Və bu dəyərli vaxtınızdan bizi izləməyə ayırdığınız zaman üçün sizə minnətdarlığımızı bildiririk. AzCanTv növbəti buraxılışı ilə sizlərin görüşünə gəlmişdir. Hər zaman olduğu kimi sizin qəlbinizi oxşayacaq, ruhunuzu bezəyəcək bir çox süjetlərimiz vardır.
Regarding Turkish-speaking people, this is like Muslim people. What's your project, Liberal Party, for the Muslim people?
Well, I think that you should be talking to Michael Ignatieff or to Brian Wilford. But essentially, look, we are very, very supportive. And our history has been one of great support, and that is going to continue. The fact is that, you know, they have made a huge contribution to this country, to the building of this land. This is not simply a country of huge geography. It's a country made up of people who have come from everywhere. And we cannot turn our backs on the contribution they have made. So you get Brian involved in here. Brian Wilford is a very important member of Parliament, who's somebody who has a huge and deep understanding of the rest of the world. And Brian is the kind of person that we need in government, in Ottawa. And that's why I'm here. Okay. We should get Brian over here then. Okay. Maybe this will work.
Before he sits up, and then we will leave.
Which one? Oh, you want to photo here?
Picture?
Okay, well.
A quick picture before he sits up.
Okay, David, if you take a quick picture.
Yes.
Okay, good. Norma's my vice president.
Okay, hi.
Brains behind the operation?
Yeah, all the women in the brains behind the operation.
Good look right here, guys. Good, good. Excellent.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, good.
Great, like Prime Minister. So what's your life after being a Prime Minister of Canada?
Well, I'm spending, we've got sort of three main areas. I've got two projects in Africa where I'm spending a lot of time. And then I've got two projects with the Aboriginal people here in Canada, which, as you know, we have a third world in Canada. And the third is the whole area of international affairs where I have been called on. And of course, this is an area where Brian Wilford is, of course, one of Parliament's experts. His knowledge of the Far East is probably second to none. And so whenever I have an issue that arises in the Far East, the first person I call is Brian Wilford.
Something about the current issues. The Harvard government sent in the economic report recently, so that it says Michael Ignatieff is saying will be reviewing the report. Do you think there will be an election or something like that?
Well, ultimately that'll be up to Michael to make that decision, but I can tell you that we obviously are very concerned that having slain the deficit, that we're now over $50 billion currently. Mr. Flaherty, unfortunately, was the Minister of Finance in Ontario that left us a $5.6 billion deficit. We're obviously concerned about Canadians and getting them back to work and making sure that infrastructure projects are in place. And so, you know, unlike some other parties, we're taking the weekend to really evaluate the situation. And nobody knows this better, of course, than Paul, because obviously it was a very difficult time. But the reason we were able to slay the deficit is because Canadians got behind us and supported that tremendous effort that was involved in getting it done.
If there's an election, if Liberal gain back the power, will the Liberal government do better than Conservative for the economic crisis?
Well, I think all you have to do is look at the Liberal history. We inherited a massive deficit from the previous Conservative government. We eliminated it within 4 years. We had the largest tax cuts in Canadian history, but we also invested in healthcare and education. And research and development. So those are the kinds of issues that build a country. And so I think that the best way of knowing what we would do in the future is to look at our record.
What's your opinion?
Well, I can tell you that because of the work of Poul Martinin, that CPP is there for Canadians today. It's because of Poul Martinin. We didn't get the bank mergers, which the Conservatives and others were asking for. They said, be like Citibank. Where's Citibank today? If you look at the things that we did as a government, there's no question that our track record speaks for itself. When you want to know who the best money managers in Canada, Liberal Party.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice to see you. I'd like you to introduce.
Before passing the floor to our first speaker, I would like to acknowledge the help by a group of generous-spirited people who have worked hard on making this event happen. This conference, as I mentioned, is an outcome of cooperation between two principal organizers. As with the last year, one of the principal organizers for this year is the Center for European, Russian, and Eurasian Studies at the Mott Center for International Studies, better known with its acronym CERS. I can see several CERS students in the room, and they can rightly confirm the school's reputation as a leading institution in Canada for the study of Eurasian region. And I think this explains why CERS is the optimal venue for a panel of this kind that tries to disseminate knowledge about a distant but a highly strategic part of the world. On the CERS side, one person, Dr. Robert Austin, who will also be speaking to you on foreign policy options of Azerbaijan, deserves a special acknowledgement. Without his excitement, experience, and energy, neither this nor last year's event could have been possible. So I say thank you, Professor Austin, for all involvement in this project for the last year and also for this year. And the other co-sponsor of, there will be more acknowledgements coming. The other co-sponsor of this event is the Assembly of Canadian Azerbaijani Associations. It's an umbrella organization bringing together about 10 associations that deal with various aspects of life in the diaspora. It was founded several years ago, and since then has grown into a robust organization. On the Assembly side, Dr. Ilham Akundov, professor at Waterloo University.
I just want to emphasize that while I've always been fascinated by Azerbaijani politics, Azerbaijan is certainly not my specialty. My focus is really more on the Western former Soviet Union, Ukraine, Russia, Moldova. But I've nonetheless have been doing work on a larger project to try to explain why some authoritarian regimes are stable, and in other words, incumbents were able to stay in power, whereas others, other autocrats are not.
I want to provide you with my assessment of the overall situation in the region, again, primarily as an outsider. I want to say what I think Azerbaijan, as an outsider, should have as its foreign policy priorities. And the third thing I'll try to get to at some point is I know that for Azerbaijanis, Kosovo is actually quite important. And I understand that because my last visit in Azerbaijan, all I did was give lectures on Kosovo. Is it a precedent? What is it? What does it mean to Azerbaijan, etc.? So I'm happy to shed some light on what we can do, or how Kosovo is relevant in the Azerbaijani context. Now, stepping back from all this, the Balkans is a cakewalk compared to NATO enlargement now, and I want it for Georgia. I would like to see Azerbaijan in NATO. Why do I want it? Because I want to make these regions predictable. Very simple. Because I think NATO enlargement makes the region predictable. NATO enlargement even eliminates foreign policy.
Support separatist regimes here and there in order to, apparently, in order to, as they understood it, as they perceived it, to put the pressure on the governments like in Baku, in Moldova, in Chisinau, in Ukraine, and in Belize. It manifested itself in Azerbaijan's case, support for the Armenian forces in Nagorno-Karabakh. In Georgia's case, support for Abkhazia and South Ossetia, and in Moldova's case, support for Pridnestrovia. It wasn't clear at the time whether it was beneficial to Russia itself in the long term, as proved by the two wars in Chechnya, that policies were not very well thought out. However, since I'm focusing basically on energy developments, I wanted to give you this very brief and rough description in order to see why Russian actions in energy developments in the Caucasus were this way and not otherwise. This general Russian policies of steering up or supporting separatist regimes manifested itself in the economic sphere, opposing Western investments in the region.
The Azerbaijani government has been in public service since the inception of the state, and perhaps before the inception of the state during the Soviet time. He's a graduate of Moscow Institute of International Relations. He's currently serving as a director of America section at the Ministry of Diaspora of Azerbaijan. In 1990s, he worked as the head of President's Task Force on Strategic Issues. This is my translation of the term, so it might not be 100% accurate, but that's a job that involves kind of keeping track of which intentions all these international powers have, and to predict the kind of disruptions that might happen to international contracts due to these nuances in international relations, to conflicting interests. And Mr. Aliyev has been director of that task force, and he has therefore participated in almost all important oil and gas contracts, including the contract of the century. So he's not just going to speak about his perspective as a senior official from the Ministry of Diaspora, but also as someone who's been involved in the process. And yesterday, while we were having conversation with Mr. Aliyev, I was surprised and delighted by the amount of first-hand knowledge that he has on these issues, and I hope that he will be generous in sharing those with the audience today. I will invite Mr. Aliyev to the podium. The way we hope to proceed is he will speak in Azerbaijani, and I will be translating it to English for the Anglophone crowd. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to all those who have worked in organizing this conference. On behalf of the Azerbaijani Diaspora Ministry, I would say thank you.
Bugün Azerbaycan mübarlar ve güzel sözler işlendi. Azerbaycan Azerbaycan Ölkələrinin xarici siyasətinin formasında enerji daşıyıcıların roluna toxunmaq istəyir bəzi məsələlər.
Today, a lot of nice words will say about Azerbaijan, and in my part of the conference, I would like to speak about the role of energy resources in determining foreign policy of Caspian Sea basin countries.
Bu məsələləri tarixinə bir balaca ekskurs etmək istəyirəm, çünki çox maraqlı bir tarixi var.
I'd like to have a brief discussion to the history of these contracts and the developments that the speakers have been alluding to.
Some people understand Azerbaijani, a lot of people don't.
Ona göre mikrofon var mı?
No, microphone is already on. Microphone is already working, guys.
Bu meselelerle bağlı dikkatinizi bir iki meselelerin üzerinde saklamak istiyorum.
I would like to pinpoint two or three very central issues.
Tarihe getirdim ki ben Azerbaycan 3 prezidentiyle işleme mühendisi oldu.
I've been lucky to have the opportunity to work with 3 presidents of Azerbaijan.
Azerbaycan neft yatakları artık muharebeden sonra Xüsusilə Xəzər dənizindəki neft yatakları 49-cu ildən artıq işləməyə başladı.
The development of the Caspian Sea basin oil wells of Azerbaijan started after the World War II in 1949.
90'lı yıllara kadar bu neft yataklarında artık geoloji iştirak bağlamıştır ve neftin miktarı hakkında dəqiq məlumatlar var idi.
Geological investigations had been conducted prior to the 1990s, and they already had solid information on how much oil we were looking into.
Sizin devletinin kifayət qədər işçi çempionları olmadığına göre bu yatakların işlenmesi geleceğe saklanmış.
USSR did not have the financial capacity and technological capacity to start using all these resources because these were in the seabed, and for that reason that had been postponed until
90'lı yıllarda artık Azerbaycan müstəqilliğini kazandıktan sonra Azerbaycan birinci prezidenti bu investorların cəlb edilmesi istiqamətində ciddi adımlar atmaya başladı.
In early 1990s, when Azerbaijan regained its independence, the first president of Azerbaijan started taking serious steps to attract foreign investment.
İlk baştan bu asan bir meseledir. Lakin hayat gösterdi ki, böyle adımları atmak isteyen şahıs öz hakimiyetini yitirmek mecburiyetinde kaldı. Yani devlet çevrilişinin neticesinde o birinci prezident devrildi.
You know, from the first look, it might look like a very easy thing to do, a very natural thing to do, but life proved that a president who tries to run serious risks, and the first president was victim of a coup attempt, a successful coup.
92. yılda artık bu lahiyeler, bu investor cəlb etme işleri devam ettirildi ve 93. yılın Eylül ayında artık ikinci defa bu kontrakttan kol çekilmesi için London'da artık iştirak vardı. BP, Statoil başta olmakla Amerika şirketleriyle birlikte.
And after the first coup, this work about attracting foreign investment continued under the second president, and in June of 1993 there were serious preparations for signing a contract in London, England.
Ve ikinci prezidente karşı da artık devlet çevrilişi oldu ve o da hakimiyetten uzaklaştırıldı.
There was a coup against the second president as well, just about that time.
Bu bir daha gösterdi ki yani tecrübesi olmayan bir şahıs ülkede yani bu neft amilinden istifade edip Azerbaycan'a investorların cəlb etmesi imkanı yok.
It's proved that someone without experience cannot try to make use of the oil factor. It will just result in catastrophe for himself.
Bu zaman Azerbaycan halkı Heydar Aliyev'e müracaat etti ve Heydar Aliyev oradaki ikinci defa hakimiyete kayıttı ve bu neft kontratlarının üstünde işlemeye başladı.
There was a general appeal at this moment for the former leader of Azerbaijan during the Soviet time, Heydar Aliyev, to return to power, and Heydar Aliyev returned to power in Azerbaijan.
History of Azerbaijan, the interactive educational system developed by Chashioglu Multimedia, covers the history of Azerbaijan from the most ancient era and up to the second half of the 20th century. The Ancient History Disc takes us to a journey into the history which starts from the evolution of primeval people and continues through establishment and development of earliest civilizations. Lullaby and Guti statecrafts of early ages are gradually unfolding right on your desktop. The Ancient History of Azerbaijan also presents history of development of the states of Mana, Ishkit, Atropatene and Caucasian Albania in a chronological order.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We are at Anas Islamic Fashion. We are specializing in all Islamic books, Islamic hijabs, abaya, all kind of tasbih, pens for women. Please visit us. You will see lots of things for all Islamic products for all the Muslims.
Cenneti sende gördüm. ben seni yener bilmişəm.
Bir Yahudi oğlunam ben, çok sevirəm seni vətən. Harda olsan, hara getsem, her zaman diyeceğim Azerbaycan, Azerbaycan, Azerbaycan. Sevirəm, seni sevirəm, Azerbaycan, Azerbaycan. Sevirəm, seni sevirəm.
Etibarlı oğlunam mən,
Ne yaxşı ki varsan vətən.
itirmərəm çörəyini.
Sen verdin yüreğini. Bir Yahudi oğlunam ben, çok sevirəm seni vətən. Harda olsan, hara getsem, her zaman diyeceğim Azerbaycan, Azerbaycan, Azerbaycan. Sevirəm, seni sevirəm, Azerbaycan, Azerbaycan. Sevirəm, seni sevirəm.
Azerbaycan, Azerbaycan. Sevirəm, seni sevirəm, Azerbaycan, Azerbaycan. Sevirəm, seni sevirəm. Seni sevirəm.
Estimate'de para charge etmiyoruz. Yerimiz Kilen Highway 7, Century Drapery.
Tül ve perdelerimizi kendi müşterilerimize montaj dahil olmak için de her şeyi beraber yapıyoruz.
867 Wilson Avenue'de zengin Türk mamul çeşitleriyle sizlere hizmet vermekten kıvanç duyarız. Hoş geldiniz, buyurun.
Estimate'de para charge etmiyoruz. Yerimiz Kilen Highway 7, Century Drapery.
Tül ve perdelerimizi kendi müşterilerimize montaj dahil olmak için de her şeyi beraber yapıyoruz.